On the summit of Mauna Kea, 13,800 feet above the Pacific, a man in a red parka guides a telescope through the night.
I operate a research telescope here. One of the best astronomical sites on Earth. We have 6 rules after dark. Most are practical. Altitude protocols, dome safety, weather windows. But the 6th rule: do not point any instrument at the coordinates the Hawaiian elders have named as Waikea's eye, even by accident.
The coordinates lie in a small patch of sky between Orion and Taurus, a place the elders call Mauna Kea Observatory. The observatory consortium has honored the request since 1968.
In April 2017, a graduate student named Catherine aimed her telescope there. 6 minutes of data.
The dataset was 4.3 gigabytes. By morning, the file had corrupted on the primary drive. She copied it to an external drive. Also corrupted. To cloud backup, the file was 4.3 gigabytes, but unreadable. Every duplicate she made corrupted within hours.
The student has not been heard from in 8 years. I've worked this mountain for 11 years. I know every observatory dome, every weather pattern, every way the altitude can turn on you. Rule 1. Always check your oxygen levels. Hypoxia can make you stupid before you notice anything's wrong. Rule 2. Never override dome safety interlocks. The machinery can crush a person without slowing down. Rule 3. Know the weather windows. A sudden storm at this elevation kills in minutes. Rules 4 and 5 are about emergency procedures, electrical isolation, visibility. All of them are about staying alive up here.
But the 6th rule is not like the others. It is not about weather or machinery or altitude sickness.
It's not about staying alive. It's about something the Hawaiian elders understood long before the first telescope was ever built.
The Observatory Consortium recognized this in 1968. No instrument has been intentionally pointed at those coordinates since.
We don't discuss it often. It's just understood. You don't aim there. You don't even joke about it.
On Mauna Kea, the silence around Rule 6 is heavier than the thin air. It is a rule that carries the weight of a sacred trust and a warning.
The forbidden coordinates sit precisely between Orion's belt and the horns of Taurus, a patch of sky no larger than your thumb at arm's length.
The Hawaiian elders have a name for it: Ka Maka o Waikea, Waikea's eye.
They asked the observatory to leave that patch alone, regardless of any object that might transit through it.
The consortium agreed in 1968. Even the most powerful telescopes on the mountain obey this line.
It's not about what's there. It's about what might be looking back. That's what the elders believe.
To aim a telescope at those coordinates is not to observe. It is to be observed by Waikea himself.
I've never seen anyone break that rule intentionally. Not in 11 years. Not since Catherine.
The rule is older than the observatories, older than the telescopes. It comes from a cosmology that sees the sky as eyes.
So we don't point there. We don't even let the coordinates sit in the system unsafeguarded.
On Mauna Kea, some silences hold more gravity than any spoken rule. This is one of them.
My shift starts at sunset. I run system checks, verify the dome hydraulics, and calibrate the instruments.
The nights are long and silent. The only sounds are the hum of cooling fans and the distant wind.
But some nights, the anomaly between Orion and Taurus is brighter. It's impossible to ignore. Maybe it's a variable star. Maybe it's a transient event. Every cell in my brain wants to point the telescope at it.
His gloved hand hovers over the joystick. Then he pulls it back.
I know better. I've known better for 11 years.
The rule is not just an agreement. It is a boundary between two ways of seeing the sky.
Every operator on this mountain honors it. Every operator except one.
The 1968 agreement has held unbroken for nearly 5 decades, except for one night in April 2017.
Her name was Catherine Voss. She was a graduate student, pursuing a thesis on dark sky transients. That night, she decided the rule didn't apply to her.
Catherine Voss was 26, a third-year PhD candidate with a sharp mind and a sharper impatience for unproven rules.
The Elder's warning is folklore. The consortium is wasting prime observation hours, avoiding a patch of empty sky because of a ghost story.
Her thesis depended on capturing rare transient phenomena. The forbidden coordinates, she believed, held the greatest anomaly of all.
If there's really something hiding in that patch of sky, then I have a scientific obligation to look.
She knew the rule. Every graduate student was briefed. But she saw it as an unscientific avoidance. Nothing more.
Tonight, my supervisor is off mountain. I have 3 unsupervised hours. No one will ever know.
On a clear April night, Catherine sealed herself in the control room and activated the telescope. She pulled up the coordinate input. A warning flashed. Restricted zone. She overrode it without hesitating.
Override. Now let's see what you've been hiding.
The guide camera locked on. A single, impossibly bright object filled the monitor. Not a star. Something far stranger.
The luminosity profile is impossible. It's as if the object is seeing me, not the other way around.
The instruments recorded normally at first. Then a faint static crept into the signal. A low-frequency hum. The telescope motors held steady, but the dome creaked. The air thickened with an unspoken pressure.
Feels like eyes. I can't shake it. Like the room itself is being observed.
She forced herself to watch the data stream. 6 minutes, just 6 minutes of observation.
Enough. End exposure.
The shutter closed. A 4.3 gigabyte dataset compiled on the drive. But the cold didn't leave her spine. Outside, the summit was silent. The anomaly in Orion still burned, as if waiting.
It's just data. I'll prove it's something new. Something explainable.
Catherine returned to the control room early the next morning, eager to examine the observation.
The file won't open. Probably just a corrupted download. I'll copy it to my external drive.
By noon, the duplicate on her SSD was also unreadable. The corruption had spread.
Cloud storage won't have the same hardware faults. If I upload it there, it should be safe.
The cloud backup completed. The file size was exactly 4.3 gigabytes, but the data remained corrupted.
The corruption is not tied to the machine. It's embedded in the file itself.
She made another copy. Within hours, the same result. Every duplicate became unreadable.
This isn't a hardware failure. This isn't a software bug. Something is in the data.
Catherine stared at the monitor, the corrupted icons flickering like a taunt.
What did I observe? What did I bring back onto this mountain?
Catherine submitted her observation log that morning, as protocol required. The forbidden coordinates were buried in the metadata. Her thesis advisor discovered the violation and immediately reported it to the observatory director.
You aimed an instrument at the coordinates the Hawaiian elders specifically asked us to avoid. Do you understand the severity of this violation?
They're treating it like a crime. All I got was a corrupted file. 6 minutes of static.
Director Paulsen suspended Catherine from the program pending a full review. The 4.3 gigabyte file was seized and locked on a secured server. It remained corrupted, unyielding to any analysis.
At the review, I'll explain the scientific imperative. I'll show them this anomaly is worth the risk.
A formal review meeting was convened. Catherine was ordered to attend. But the file itself seemed to resist exposure. Every attempt to analyze it deepened the corruption. The meeting date was set. All Catherine had to do was appear, but Catherine never appeared at the review meeting. Her chair remained empty. A search of her university apartment found everything undisturbed, as if she had simply stepped out and never returned. Her car sat untouched in the observatory parking lot for 3 weeks. Dust gathered. The tires went soft. The Hawaii Police Department opened a missing persons investigation. They found no evidence, no digital trail, no sign of struggle. The only thing left behind was the corrupted file on the secured server. Still 4.3 gigabytes of unreadable static. Catherine Voss was declared a missing person. The case remained active, but investigators had no leads. In her logbook, the final entry was from the night of the observation. It ended with a single line, "The eye sees back," By late 2017, the investigation was formally closed. No trace of her has ever been found. The tow truck took her car that winter. The observatory erased her access codes the same day. As of 2025, Catherine Voss remains a ghost, a name on a faded poster, a case that left everyone on the mountain deeply unsettled. In the years after Catherine's disappearance, Mark sought out Jeffrey Kanahele, the observatory's cultural liaison.
The word ka maka o Wakea is often translated as Wakea's eye, but that is not the full meaning.
Jeffrey explained that in Hawaiian cosmology, Wakea is the Sky Father, and the eye is where he sees into our world.
The deeper meaning is the place where Wakea returns the gaze. To look at those coordinates with an instrument is to be seen by Wakea. To be observed by Wakea is to be known by Wakea, and to be known by Wakea is to be claimed by Wakea.
Claimed? What does that mean?
The elders do not believe Catherine died. They believe she was taken by Wakea to a world without a name.
Mark felt the cold of the summit seep into his bones. This was no longer a matter of corrupted data.
Do not try to read that file. It is not corrupted. It is a record of her being seen. It will not show you science.
Mark left their meeting with a new understanding. The rule was a boundary between worlds, and Catherine had crossed it. A week later, Mark returned to Jeffrey's small hut near the observatory, questions burning in his chest.
You said a world without a name. What kind of world? Is she really alive?
Alive, but not as you understand life. The world Wakea claims has no name in any human language. It is not a planet, not a star field. It is a layer of existence beyond our perception.
He gestured toward the anomalous object, still burning above them.
The corrupted file is not broken. It holds the record of her being seen, a data structure that no human system can represent. It is not meant to be read by us.
So the corruption is just our limitation. The data is real, but our machines can't decode it. If it's not noise, then somewhere in that file is her.
Do not try to decode it. To look upon that record is to invite the gaze. You saw what happened to her.
Mark stared at the gravel beneath his boots, his mind already running calculations. The warning was clear, but the scientist in him couldn't let it rest.
But there has to be a way. Some tool that can translate it. If that is Catherine's signature, her essence, what if I could bring her back?
I have told you all I know. The heavens are patient, but they are not empty. Do not do this, Mark.
Mark returned to the control room, Jeffrey's final words echoing in the thin air. He stared at the live feed on his monitor. The anomalous object was still there, watching.
Jeffrey said the file holds her signature. If I could decode it, I might see exactly what she saw.
He reached for the keyboard, then stopped. The warning was clear.
But I am not aiming at the coordinates. I'd just be analyzing the data she already collected. Technically, that's not breaking the rule.
The logic felt thin, but his scientist's curiosity was a force he couldn't simply silence.
What if the corruption is just a cipher? A pattern hiding in the noise? I could write a script to scan for non-random structures.
His hand moved toward the server interface, then pulled back. The cold in the room seemed to deepen.
Not tonight. I need to think.
He turned off the monitor, but the image of the object remained burned into his vision. The temptation had taken root.
I can't stop thinking about that file. 4.3 gigabytes of something that shouldn't exist. Jeffrey said not to look. But I am not pointing the telescope. I am just analyzing old data. There's no rule against that.
Late that night, he sent a secure message to a former systems administrator who still held a cloud backup of Catherine's data. The reply came quickly. A warning about the file's history, but ultimately a transfer link.
It arrived. Same name, same size, same apparent corruption. But I know now it's not corruption. It's just not meant for our machines. If Jeffrey is right, this file is not noise. It's a record of her, a human soul seen by a god.
He transferred the file to an isolated workstation, air gapped from the observatory network. He installed spectral analysis tools and a custom script to scan for non-random patterns.
One click and I am crossing a line. Not the rule, but something perhaps worse. Once I see, I can't unsee.
His finger pressed enter. The analysis began, and the cold in the room deepened. The spectral analysis unfolded on the monitor. Lines of code giving way to a swirling visual of the file's content.
At first, it's just noise. Random spikes, static. But I am scanning for non-random structures.
Slowly, faint patterns emerged from the chaos. Not random, structured, almost organic.
There, in the frequency domain. A pattern that looks like an eye. No, a face.
The face was indistinct, but it had a gaze. It seemed to form from the data itself, like a phantom in the machine.
It's moving. The face is turning toward me. This isn't a recording. It's responsive.
Mark reeled back, his chair scraping against the floor. The room felt smaller, the air thinner.
This is what a soul looks like when a god sees it. Catherine's signature, still aware.
But the scientist in him couldn't stop. He leaned forward again, adjusting the parameters.
If I can just decipher the pattern, I might understand what she saw. I am not afraid. Not yet.
His monitor flickered, lines of static scrolling, and for a moment, the file name burned on the screen. Catherine Voss OBS 1, DAT. Then the control room lights dimmed, surged, dimmed again, as if something was breathing through the circuits. A whisper threaded through the air, a single Hawaiian word, low and indefinable, like wind shaping a name.
That word. It sounded like Waikea. I've never heard it spoken, but something in me knows.
The monitor brightened again, and the spectral face reconstructed from the noise, eyes now unmistakably turned toward him. Mark tore his gaze away and checked the dome controls. The readouts were spinning, slow but deliberate.
The dome is moving. No command input. The slit is rotating toward. Oh God.
He slammed the emergency stop. The motors stuttered, but didn't cease. A low hum filled the room.
It's not stopping. Whatever is looking at me is now operating the telescope.
The dome continued its slow rotation, the hum vibrating through the floor as the forbidden coordinates appeared on the main screen. Mark watched the dome slit rotate, the telescope barrel tilting with a grinding inevitability. The coordinate readout on the main display ticked upward, right ascension and declination, sliding toward Ka Maka Owaikea.
The emergency stop didn't hold. I need to kill the power. Now.
He lunged for the main circuit breaker and pulled the lever. Sparks flew from the panel. The dome motors whined down, the rotation slowing, groaning to a halt. The coordinates on the screen froze, mere arcseconds away from the forbidden zone. The telescope never locked on, but it had come closer than any human hand had ever dared.
It wasn't trying to observe itself. It was showing me what I was about to do, testing whether I would.
He slumped against the console, breath ragged in the thin, high-altitude air.
But now I know. The coordinates call to the telescope. And the telescope wants to look. I can control it. A controlled test, full documentation, and I'll finally understand what happened to Catherine.
He began preparing the instruments with methodical care, setting up every recording channel and software log. The tablet displayed the telescope readiness checklist. All systems nominal, the anomalous object bright and waiting.
One manual entry, and I break every protocol I've believed in for 11 years. But this is the only way to know.
His gloved finger typed the coordinates into the command interface, each number a betrayal of the 1968 agreement. A warning flashed red on the main screen, restricted zone. Mark hesitated only a heartbeat before clicking approach. The telescope began to move, the guide camera feed flickering as it centered on the forbidden patch of sky. Inside the control room, Mark watched the crosshairs align with the anomaly, his own heartbeat loud in the thin air. The massive mirror assembly tilted, capturing light that no human eye was ever meant to receive. The guide camera locked on. The anomalous object filled the monitor, Not a star, but something far stranger, and the observation began. All instruments spiked at once. Radiation surged, electromagnetic fields warped, the temperature plummeted.
It's not a star. It's an eye. A pale, vast eye with a pupil like a void.
The eye filled the monitor, lidless, eternal, and it was looking directly at him. Streaming data revealed impossible geometries, fractals bending into themselves, angles that should not exist.
Oh God, it sees me. It's seeing me right now.
Alarms screamed warnings he couldn't comprehend. The dome groaned, the mountain itself seeming to shudder. Within the data stream, a shape emerged. Human, arms wide, etched in static.
Catherine. She's still there, trapped inside the observation.
The eye pulsed, and the geometry rearranged around her, as if displaying the price of the gaze. Mark could not move, could not look away. The observation held him, and the eye held the mountain. Mark tried to lift his hand from the console, but his limbs felt encased in ice. The eye on the screen pulsed once, a slow contraction, and he heard his own name whispered in the static.
It knows my name. Wakea knows me.
Catherine's face in the data sharpened, her mouth forming silent words over and over. The telescope dome groaned as if the mountain itself were shifting, and the floor vibrated with a deep, subsonic hum. He felt his thoughts being rifled through, every memory laid bare, an unblinking audit of his soul.
I am being claimed. Catherine was right. The eye sees back, and it takes.
But through the paralysis, one thought remained, the emergency cutoff. His hand was still near the switch.
Move. Move. Pull the switch.
His fingers convulsed and struck the emergency cutoff. The telescope slewed away with a final, grinding lurch. The anomalous light vanished from the monitor. The alarms cut off. A heavy silence settled, broken only by Mark's ragged breathing. He slumped against the console, head bowed, when a faint chime from the computer drew his eye.
A new file. 4.3 gigabytes. Created right now.
The file name was a string of garbled characters, but the size was unmistakable.
Number. It can't be. Not me.
His gloved hand moved the cursor and opened the file. It was nothing but static and error codes, but he knew it was not random. Like Catherine's, it was a record of being seen.
I aimed at Wakea's eye. The gaze returned. This file is my signature. I have been claimed.
Mark sat in the dark, the weight of the mountain above and the eye beyond, knowing he was now part of Wakea's collection. Days passed before Mark could bring himself to resume his duties. The cold of the summit felt different now. Personal. He never pointed the telescope near the forbidden zone again. The coordinates were locked, untouchable.
But the anomaly is brighter now. Even when I don't look, I can feel it. Almost like it's waiting for me to look back.
On nights when he worked, the anomalous object pulsed faintly, a slow rhythm that matched no known variable star.
It's like a greeting. A reminder that I am on the ledger. Every shift, it knows I am here.
He avoided looking directly at it through any optical aid, but the weight never lessened.
My file is still on the server. I can't delete it. I stopped trying.
The observatory domes stood against the stars as they always had, but one of them now housed a claim.
One day, it'll be my turn. The eye never closes, and when it calls again, I don't know if I can stop it.
He looked up at the anomaly one last time before his shift, a tiny figure against the infinite, and the mountain held its breath. Mark opened his logbook and wrote the only truth he had left. I am still here, but I am still here. But I am not the same. He glanced at the server rack, where his 4.3 gigabyte file sat, its indicator light blinking with a quiet persistence. Jeffrey's words returned. To be known by Wakea is to be claimed by Wakea. He imagined Catherine out there, on a world without a name, forever alive in the gaze.
One day, the eye will pulse brighter, and I'll know it's my turn.
The anomalous object still hung between Orion and Taurus, unblinking, patient. He closed the logbook. The server light blinked. The mountain waited. Mark stood at the edge of the summit, the cold wind pressing through his parka. He looked up one last time, a tiny figure against the infinite, and knew the eye never closes. And somewhere in the dark, in a world without a name, Catherine was still watching back.